Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. So I was thinking about it, and it dawned on me that the corner thing we did, I think, is kind of necessary for other parts of the team. Not every part. I'm still not entirely sure where to go. I feel like some of them have been touched on enough. For example, I don't know if we're going to do Jordan. Maybe we should. I don't know, because there's so much QB data out there. Also, it's kind of funny, and maybe we'll go over this, not today. Well, maybe today. Who knows? Who frickin' knows anymore? What is his name? Sharp? Sharp. What is his name? He's got Sharp Football Analytics. I forget his name. Warren Sharp, I think. Anyways, he's been on a warpath to tell everybody that Jordan Love is elite. And I think at one point I kind of came in and I was like, yeah, I don't know about that necessarily. But he's just throwing out, and he's not even necessarily directly talking about Jordan, but it feels like he's trying to push the Jordan hype real hard, because everything he's putting out there, maybe it's just a coincidence, everything he's putting out, Jordan is like at the top. To be fair, he's not alone, right? I mentioned before, if you look at some of the more PFF stuff, Pro Football Reference, when you look at like accuracy and inaccuracy and whatnot, Jordan, that's where the problems lie. But if you go over to like DVOA and play around over there at FTN, where they have the DVOA and additional stats, it is super flattering for Jordan. So, it is certainly nuanced. It's not a slam dunk that, yeah, Jordan had a bad year. It's certainly you could call it a down year. I saw, again, I don't know if we'll talk. I save all these little things just to maybe bring it up, but we're kind of halfway there anyways. Might as well talk about it now. I think it was Peyton Manning maybe, or somebody was talking, and he was like, it's a little crazy to say that C.J. Stroud had a down year. And then just like rattles off a couple things, and it's like, bro, he had a down year, okay? It doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. It doesn't mean he can't do any of this or that. It just means that this 2024 was not as good as 2023. Are you really arguing that that's not the case and he was as good? Because that's stupid. It was a down year. Like, you can say that. Take stuff so seriously, personally. But anyways, I don't know. We'll see about Jordan. We may do, because I know not that long ago I already did a once through, and we went through a ton of different Jordan stats, so I don't know. Wide receivers, kind of the same. I feel like we've touched on it already. Maybe we'll run through it again. I don't know, but, because of, the draft and all that and whatnot, I feel like it's been a topic of conversation quite a bit. But in other areas, like edge and defensive line, we very much dealt with that. On the other hand, we didn't so much look at, for example, and this is what I want to do today, or at least in part, linebacker. I think, and I've mentioned this before, I know I do this, I'm guessing all of us do this to some degree, maybe some of you guys are wired a little different. It's almost like playing a game of telephone with yourself, where you'll see a couple little tidbits and you'll put together a narrative. Edgerrin Cooper is really good. And it just starts to morph and grow and become a thing to where when you actually go back and look at it, and I'm not saying he wasn't good, I'm just saying you look at it and it's much more nuanced or just completely different than you remembered it. Like for me, Carrington Valentine, I didn't remember his coverage grade was that good. It sounded like I knew that when I was talking about it, but it was one of those, I'm going through it and I'm looking at it, holy crap. Okay, record. As for Carrington Valentine, you may be surprised to find, you know what I mean? Like, you idiots probably don't remember. I didn't remember. The other one is like Quay Walker, and I haven't even looked yet, so I may be surprised by this, but that's why I want to do this. And you've probably heard me say this a bunch, and I kind of just barely say it because I kind of don't really remember, but I know there's some truth in there somewhere, so I kind of say it, but kind of don't. And that is that Quay started to get better. Like, he started to look good. His grades started to improve. All these different things. Like, Quay kind of feels like we're feeling it out and figuring it out. He missed some time, so it was kind of like weird, but it became like, wow, I don't feel like he's just a giant liability anymore. Like, dude's out there making plays, and I kind of feel like with Edgerrin Cooper, they can isolate him and kind of get him doing what he needs to do. And, maybe we're figuring this thing out with Mr. Quay here. But again, what the heck does that mean? What actually did he do? When? What? When? Where? How? Why? When? What? Who? Sometimes why? You know what I mean? Do you understand? But all right, let's get started with Mr. Edgerrin Cooper. And this is maybe better than I was hoping. Because, look, I know he had a good year. And I also know it wasn't perfect. There were the up and downs and whatnot. But as far as what I would have hoped for, I don't know that this could be any better for a rookie player that we're hoping is a very good player. I'm going to try to say player in a sentence 7 times if I can. Oh, I have longed for this day. And I don't want to assume. He could fall off, you never know what could happen. We lost our linebacker coach, as people take a step back, injuries, whatever. I shouldn't even say it, but I love that finally we just draft a guy that's awesome. I talk all the time about how you can't just expect that. That's not how things work generally. It happens, but it's not just automatic. But also, it does happen, and it never seems to happen for us. I don't want to sit here and whine as we get quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, but I'm just saying it feels good to just draft a guy and boom, he's a blue chipper. You know what I mean? And he's an early round guy. Obviously can't be a first rounder because that's just... I'm hoping Golden can kind of break that seeming curse. Not that they're all bad, but just, not blue chippers. He did have bad games. As a rookie, you would expect that. But really, as far as like real bad games, just looking at PFF grades, there were 2. Week 4 against Minnesota, he had a 41 grade, 56 run defense, 53 tackling, 59 pass rush, 54 coverage. Which, hilariously, none of those things independently are that terrible. I mean, the worst ones are like 53s. There's no 40s or anything. But overall, they gave him a 41. His other bad game was worse than that. That was against Houston week 7. 34 grade, 47 run defense, which is bad, 27 tackling, which is terrible, 53 pass rush, and 39 coverage. Obviously not very good. Outside of that, and again, there are individual bad performances as far as, a coverage here or a run defense here, but overall, those are his 2 kind of, real bad games. Outside of that, week 11 against Chicago, he had a 54 grade. Remember, if 60 is average, 54 is slightly below average. In that, it was largely a coverage thing. He had a 46 coverage grade. He had a 72 run defense grade in that game, though, so you kind of take it or leave it as far as that goes. The only other sub-60 game, he didn't really play very much, and that was week 2. They were just easing him in. In fact, let's look at this real quick. If we look at his snap counts, he had 11 week 1, 7 week 2, and then it jumped up to 18 week 3, 21 week 4, then 30 week 5, 38 week 6, 41 week 7. So kind of like week 6, we got into that like 30-40 range. He had his first 50 snap game against Chicago week 11, and then at the end of the season, he was seemingly playing like every snap. Week 17, 71 snaps. Week 18, 57. Wildcard game, 60. So they were still kind of easing him in throughout the entire season. But especially this week 2 against Indy, first of all, he barely played. It was 7 snaps. Second of all, it's week 2 for a rookie. Granted, week 1, he was dominant. It was one of his best games of the entire season. His actual second best game of the season was against Philly week 1. Which is crazy. 11 snaps, but still. But overall, that's it. Then it just gets better from there. So why don't we switch over to a week to week as we kind of go from here rather than just looking at, we'll do an overview at the end. Just the overall grades for Edgerrin Cooper. 86 week 1, then 57, 65, and then 41 that Minnesota game. So it's like, crap, I thought he was good, but maybe we spoke too soon. Then he had an 86. That's the other thing. It's not just like a 69 or 72. It's his good games are like, holy crap, that was good. 86 against LA week 5. 81 week 6 against Arizona. So, wait a minute. Hold on. And then he has a 34 against Houston. Here we go again. But then 74 against Jacksonville. 65 against Detroit, which is not terrible, and then he had that 53 Week 11 against Chicago. We lost Edgerrin Cooper weeks 12, 13, and 14. He came back and was never the same. His first game back against Seattle, he played 34 snaps, a little bit pared down, but still definitely starting. I shouldn't say definitely starting. He wasn't officially starting via PFF until week 16, but whatever. 34 snaps, still in that like upper range-ish. Had his best game of the entire season coming back from injury. 94 PFF grade against Seattle. Again, we'll get into the specifics for each one in a minute. Week 16 against New Orleans, he had an 81 grade. Week 17 against Minnesota, 80. Week 18 against Chicago, 76. And then the wild card game against Philly, 78. So he ended the season on a 5-game streak, 4 of which were starting, which the only other game was week 8 where he actually officially started. So he was officially a starter the last 4 weeks. But the last 5 weeks after he came back from injury, it was 90, 80, 80, 70, 70. And the two 70s are high 70s, 76 and 78. So again, slightly rocky, and that's how it goes, right? Nobody's going to be perfect every game. But this guy was, I mean, there's no real stretches of like, that sucks. The only one would be weeks 2, 3, and 4, where again, he wasn't playing a ton. One of the games was technically above average. The other one was basically average, and then you have the 41 mixed in. And that's sandwiched between an 86, 86, 81. It's hard to look at any part of this and be like, that sucks. I can't be super critical. He did a pretty good job of kind of balancing out the run defense, the tackling, the pass rush, the coverage, because there are rocky spots throughout, but he compensates, right? So if we go through it, for example, week 1 against Philly when he had the 86 grade, he only had a 61 coverage grade, and they gave him a 60 pass rush grade, just one attempt, whatever. But the reason his grade was so high, he had a 76 tackling grade because he had a batted pass. He had 3 tackles with 0 missed tackles and 1 stop, which is when one of your tackles registers as a negative play for the offense. So he had a 76 tackling grade, 72 run defense grade. So overall, they gave him an 86, despite the coverage, which again he barely did, being a little lower. The 85 grade week 5 against LA. He only had a 64 run defense grade. So the run defense was down a little bit, but a 79 tackling grade, 78 pass rush grade, where he had 2 pressures and a sack on just 5 attempts. We'll get into that in a second. And a 77 coverage grade. He played 18 snaps in coverage. He was targeted just once. It was caught for 7 yards. The 81 grade week 6 against Arizona. It was pretty perfect across the board, but he had a 66 pass rush grade, 3 attempts with no success, but 76 coverage, 82 tackling, and 72 run defense. A better example of what I'm talking about here is week 8 against Jacksonville, where he had a 74 grade, but it was 43 run defense and 39 tackling. He really struggled in that area. 4 tackles, 3 assisted tackles, but 2 missed tackles. Still sounds pretty good to me, but you try not to have missed tackles. He had 14 on the season. I don't know if that's high or not. We'll have to look at that. It feels a little high. 15% missed tackle rate. I don't know. We'll look at it. But despite that, how did he get a 74 grade? Because he had a 91 pass rush grade where he had a sack on his 4 pass rush attempts. He ends up getting home with a sack. And he had a 74 coverage grade. 3 targets, 2 receptions for 42 yards and a pass breakup. And that was on 15 coverage snaps. So again, you look at it and go, it could have been... Yeah, but that's however many where he's locking the guy down where the ball doesn't even come that way. His best game of the season against Seattle, he only had a 52 run defense grade and a 60 tackling grade. 4 tackles, 1 missed tackle. And again, the run defense, for whatever reason, they said he was pretty bad. It was actually one of his worst performances in run defense. But he had an 82 pass rush grade where he rushed the passer 3 times, and guess how many times he got to the quarterback? 3. 1 sack, 1 hit, and 1 hurry. Beyond that, he had a 93 coverage grade where he was targeted 6 times. He was in coverage 24 times. Of that, they targeted him 6 times. Only 2 were caught. And of that, he had a pick and a pass breakup with a 2.8 passer rating when targeted. So again, like even when he struggles in an area, Week 16 against New Orleans, just a 64 coverage grade, 86 run defense. Even when he struggles in an area, he dominates in another. Against Minnesota, it was the exact opposite. 47 coverage grade. His second worst coverage grade of the entire season. He was targeted 7 times. All 7 were caught for 91 yards and a touchdown. That's terrible. But they gave him an 82 pass rush grade and a 92 run defense grade. It was his best run defense game of the season. Week 18 against Chicago, 48 tackling grade, which was his 4th worst of the season. 5 tackles, 2 assists, 3 missed tackles. But he had a 71 coverage grade and a 71 run defense grade. So despite that, he did a great job in his 2 areas of expertise. Final game against Philly, just a 62 run defense grade, but he had a 67 tackling, 66 pass rush, 83 coverage, his second best coverage grade of the season. 21 snaps in coverage, 2 targets, 2 receptions, just 13 yards. So, yeah, Edgerrin he's a guy that just gets it, man. You watch, the funny thing is, you watch a lot of highlights and it's kind of like, whatever. I mean, a highlight is a receiver running down the field and, they throw him the ball and he catches it. And it's like, okay, well, everybody has those highlights. Some guys, though, you watch their highlights and it's like, yeah, I don't know that everybody can just do that. His instincts are shockingly impressive. I remember going back and watching some of the games with Edgerrin Cooper and just thinking, I mean, this guy is unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to even explain. You've probably seen them. If you haven't, get over on X, type in Edgerrin Cooper and see if you can find some highlights. Maybe put in Edgerrin Cooper highlight, or just see if you can find it on YouTube maybe. But they usually have people doing little small cut-ups. His ability to just wade through the traffic and not bite on the BS when the running backs are trying to get you to bite. And then when he finally commits, it's like he teleports to the running back. Like, how did you get there so fast? Like you've got so much traffic in your face. You're not overcommitting, right? Because that's the thing with Quay, and sometimes he gets stuck, and it's like, I don't know what he could have done better. I don't want you to stand there and not do anything, but then sometimes when he commits to it, he shoots down the wrong gap, and the running back's gone the other way. So it's like, I don't freaking know what to tell you, Quay. I just know that you're not doing a very good job, and you need to do better. Edgerrin just has this sixth sense where he just knows. And I just think sometimes with football, guys just have it, and that's kind of why I've been saying before, I'm all for the traits, and I'm all for the upside. I get that, I like that, I appreciate that, but sometimes guys are just good football players, and you can't exactly explain it. They don't have the 4.39 speed in the 40 or the agility or this or that. I mean, again, it's not necessarily the case today, but back when Devontae was on top, you look at the top 5-10 guys, these are 4 or 5 wide receivers, guys running 4.5s. Des Bryant was 6'1". I remember thinking, because he's a big go up and get it guy, and I looked at his stats thinking he's 6'5". He's 6'1". Dude was just a monster. He'd go up in triple coverage and just come down with it. It's not that Edgerrin Cooper isn't a good athlete. I'm sure his RAS is 8 or 9 or something. But a billion guys have that. Some guys are just natural football players, and I can't explain how they know what to do, but they just have instincts, and they just go get it. Especially at linebacker, man. So really good linebackers, those guys just trigger fast. I mean, it's, you think about safety, it's kind of like safety, but in close. Things happen faster, and you have to react faster. If you're a safety, you kind of sit back and wait, and then you see where the guy goes, and then you can start coming downhill. You have more time to react, on a run play, for example. If you're a linebacker, man, you got so many guys in your face. You got people trying to block you. You're up in the scrum. You're in tight, man. You're toe-to-toe with these guys. So the ability to process, I mean, it's kind of like running backs, but from the other side, and you don't know the play, right? The running back knows where the blocks are supposed to be and how to handle all this stuff. But you still have to get in there fast and make really quick decisions. It's a tough position. Not to mention, the middle linebackers like Quay or wearing the helmet. They got to call these things out. They got to know all these people's responsibilities and everything. I mean, it's tough. And it's like a work of art when you see a guy that just excels at it. The true greats. I'm gushing here. Again, I don't know that Edgerrin's going to be really good, but when you watch guys that are just really good blue chip players, man, there's something different that you just can't explain. Maybe with a Tyreek Hill, it's I can kind of explain it. He's super fast. But even that, there's a lot of fast guys that can't do what Tyreek does. There's still some kind of a subtlety thing there that, Sometimes it's more nuanced. Sometimes it's just right there. But man, I appreciate watching really good players. Obviously, the quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and whatnot, it's very easy to see. Maybe not easy to explain how they're doing it, but very easy to see the magnificence of it when he's contorting his body in different ways and somehow generating an amazing amount of power as he's falling to the ground, throwing across his body perfectly in between two, like just stupid stuff. Brett Favre was doing that. But there's some unsung heroes out there. And I feel like with linebacker, there have been some great linebackers, but not super recently. Like after Luke Kuechly, there used to be some great linebackers. You go watch some linebacker highlights and whatnot. These guys are incredible. Luke Kuechly was a freaking genius. I would be very excited if the next great linebacker was Edgerrin Cooper, because those guys are freaking cool, man. When you watch them go off like that, obviously I would like to have a blue chip quarterback and Golden at wide receiver and all these things, but for the game and for the Packers, why not? Let's dream big. The next Luke Kuechly is Edgerrin Cooper. How about that? Ray Lewis. You watch some of the Ray Lewis stuff. I mean, that was a different. There was some serious violence there, but it wasn't just violence. He was doing the same stuff where it's like he just knew. I don't know. It's good stuff. It's all good stuff. I got to go watch some highlights and blow off some steam. I think I'm just getting all excited. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll look at Quay and some of the other guys that we've got going here. I want to look at Tyron Hopper a little bit. There's not much to look at, but I'm holding out hope that he can win that job. I mean, he is a third-round pick. It's not like he's a seventh-rounder where it's just like, we probably have the positions here. He's a third-round pick. I think there is some expectation we'd like you to step up and take that third spot. I know they really like McDuffie, and we'll look at McDuffie too. I know that they like him a lot, and for relatively good reason. I mean, when they put him at middle linebacker, he was dominating. Oh, no, it wasn't him. That was a guy that's gone. Whatever. McDuffie struggled a little bit last year, which works for Tyron Hopper. But that's another guy that come training camp, I really want to personally focus on Hopper because I thought he did a good job in training camp. But again, year 2, third-round pick. I know a lot of people thought he was a reach. I don't really care. You are what you are, and I think it's kind of up to you. You gotta win that job. But let's take a break. Edgerrin, we salute you. Please stay healthy, stay awesome. Just be an awesome player for a very long time until you retire. Can you just play in Green Bay until you're 34? You quit on your own terms. There's no contract disputes. You just decide I'm going to hang it up, I'm going to retire, and we just freaking put you up in the old Hall of Fame. I'll be there. I will be there at your Hall of Fame induction personally. Not that you care, but I will do it. Please, can we just have one normal relationship with a player? Not constant, you're great, and then you get a contract, and then you get hurt all the time, and then you get all pissy about stuff, and then we're like, well, we got to work out a contract. That's a little different because you kind of suck and are hurt all the time, and then you get pissed, and then you leave. Can we not? Let's take a break. All right, Quay, you're up, big dog. So Quay played weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11. One of those, either 8 or 10, is probably a bye. And then the other was an injury. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, missed 16, 17, 18, and then came back for the wild card game. Also, as far as the growth and all that, might be a little bit overstated. It's pretty bad. If you look at his 3 years, he's actually very consistent and consistently below average, 52, 58, 57, so he didn't take a step overall from 23 to 24. Yes, there's injuries. Yes, there's a couple really good games mixed in, but way too many really bad games. His run defense in 23 was 64. This past year was 65. Tackling, 82, and then 77. So there's a lot of consistency here. Pass rush did jump from a 58 to a 65. Coverage went from a 55 to a 50. So coverage is bad. We're talking low 50s. Pass rush is moderate. He's in the 60s. Tackling is great. Run defense is meh. That's consistently what he's been. So there's going to have to be some kind of a jump here. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I guess just kind of running through it again. It's just bad. we won't even do necessarily week to week. He had 2 games 70 or above. That's not good. That's bad. He had 1 great game, that was San Francisco. So his 2 good games, there's a couple that are close. We could call it 4, but strictly above a 70. Week 7 against Houston, 77. Week 12 against San Francisco, 91. Both of those kind of across the board, especially the San Francisco game. 91 run defense, 82 tackling, 78 pass rush, 71 coverage. Just dominated in that game. Week 7 against Houston, it was all kind of low 70s, high 60s across the board, 77 overall. Again, there were 2 that were close. Week 13 against Miami, he had a 69 grade, 83 run defense, 82 tackling, 77 pass rush, but a 55 coverage. Week 4 against Minnesota was 68 again, 57, 66, 63, 71, whatever. The real big problem here is, again, if we're keeping it strict, you got the 2 good games. Games in the 60s, you had week 13 and 4, as I just said, week 11, 62, week 14, 62. That is 6 total games that are average and above. 6. As you can imagine, that's not half of his games. Week 1 against Philly, 59. The wild card game against Philly, 58. Week 5 against LA, 57. Week 9 against Detroit was a 50. Week 6 was a 49. Week 15 was a 44. Week 2 was a 40. Week 3 was a 35. If we look week to week, obviously he didn't string together really 2 good games. The closest was weeks 12 and 13, 91, 69, we'll call it. But when you read it just week to week, it's bad. 50, 40, 30, 60, 50, 40, 70, 50, 60, 90, 60, 60, 40, 50. So he didn't even really, you look at, let's say, weeks 11, 12, 13, 14 even, where it's 60, 90, close to 70, 60. It feels like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We're doing something. And maybe that's kind of where I came in again, and I was like, he's figuring it out a little bit. The problem is you end with a 44 and a 58. And so, and again, 3 of those wow games were in the 60s. So it's like 3 bad games and then a pretty good game, and then 2 bad games and a good game, and then 2 meh to bad games, and then 2 good games, and then meh, bad. I don't know. I know that there needs to be a step from Quay, and maybe the Packers disagree. Again, PFF is not the ultimate authority, especially at linebacker. There are certain guys that continually get good contracts and have terrible PFF grades. I don't know if it's just a particular thing that they do, that, there's a gap between how PFF grades and sort of what they're being asked to do, to where if you do your job properly, according to what the Packers want, PFF will not like that very much. And this is where, watching the tape could provide some context. There have been times when I've watched guys get bad grades, and you watch it, and you're like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I get it. I get that it wasn't maybe the best game, and he missed that 1 tackle, which wasn't a big deal, but I'm not overly disappointed by it. All right, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break here. We'll rip through McDuffie and then whatever we can find for Tyron Hopper. Yeah, that's the plan. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So I think McDuffie would be a perfect case of, if you went to the Packers with his PFF grades and said, this is what we think as far as how good he is, they would tell you you're an idiot. Just based on the fact, and again, I think a lot of what McDuffie brings is being really in tune with what the Packers are asking. He's going to be in the right place at the right time. Whether or not he's going to super capitalize on that, I don't know. Also important to note, he is a run defender / tackler. He is not a coverage guy. That especially was pronounced this past year. 4 years with Green Bay, he was a 6th round pick. Definitely would say he's a success for a 6th round pick as far as that goes. The value that we got for him, I'm not upset about it. Year 1, he only played 1 snap. In 2022, year 2, he played 175, and then he took a big jump in 2023, 500 snaps. But his grades went up to 700 in 2024. Overall, 60, 58, 57, 55. Very consistent, especially when you consider the 60 is just the 1 snap, meaning he didn't do anything. So 58, 57, 55. It obviously trending downward as well, which is not great. Run defense grade 63, 60, 63. Tackling 72, 77, 63. Again, kind of took a step back there. Pass rush is the one thing that has been improving, as well as his snaps have gone up. 48, 64, 69. His snaps, as far as pass rush, went from 10 to 29 to 35. His pressures went from 1 to 4 to 8. But coverage is where he really does not do very well. 57, 56, and then 46 this year. Now remember, there is a change of scheme, so there's some difference there, but the bottom line is his run defense stayed the same. His tackling got worse. His coverage got a lot worse. As far as his good games, he had one, depending on how generous you'd like to be with him. That was week 9 against Detroit. He had a 90 grade, 84 run defense, 80-ish tackling, 59 pass rush, 62 coverage. I mean, if we just go week to week, again, rounding down, or looking in the tens category, 30, 60, 50, 60, 50, 50, 60, 60, 90, 60, 50, 50, 50, 60, 50, 60, 40, 50. So, I mean, very consistently average, I guess you could say, which is not the worst thing in the world, especially when you consider, I mean, the run defense and tackling and whatnot are pretty on point, and he seems a pretty intelligent guy. He's a liability in coverage, and he's gone backwards this past year. He's still relatively young. He's going to be 26 this year. And, of course, going into year 2, you know, he could just as well as anybody else take a step in this system and improve and whatnot. But, you know, McDuffie's one of those guys that's kind of a hanger-on. He's one of those guys that the Packers love him. As long as he's not a huge liability, he's going to stick around. He's okay. You don't love him, you don't hate him. But also, he's one of those guys where it's like, in a perfect world, you'd replace him. Right now, we don't have anybody to replace him. In fact, we're still trying to replace Quay. I mean, not really, but I feel like we're trending in that direction. We have one linebacker. We got McDuffie, who's kind of a steady presence. We got Quay, who's a little bit up and down. He's certainly got more upside, more like really good games, but also way more bad games. He's less consistent. And certainly you could look at it in the collective and say, you know, with McDuffie and Quay kind of just doing their jobs around average, and then Edgerrin being that excellent piece on top of the other things that we have, hopefully some pass rush up front and run defense up front and the safeties up top and adequate corners. You know what I mean? Like, you could piece it together with a good defensive coordinator as long as people are doing their job and he's calling the right stuff. But if we're just being real, and I think everyone kind of felt it, you know, McDuffie was very well liked in 2023. I think for good reason. He made some really good plays. But I think we kind of missed some of the bad, and also, again, that step back. We got to see if it's a year 1 thing and he's going to take a step forward, or if it's sort of a scheme thing where it's maybe not the greatest fit. All right, finally, Mr. Tyron Hopper. Because he played 18 total snaps in the regular season, so let's check out the preseason. He didn't even play a ton in the preseason. Week 2 he played. It was not the greatest game. He played 51 snaps, 42 grade, 44 run defense, 51 coverage, 59 pass rush. Just one pass rush attempt, didn't get home. He played 19 run defense snaps. He had 8 tackles, which is really solid, 2 assists, and just 1 miss. That's really not terrible. And 4 stops. I don't know why that wouldn't have been. I mean, it's really solid. 5 targets, 5 receptions, 44 yards. Not the greatest. No touchdowns, no pass breakups, no interceptions. Week 3 against Baltimore was a big improvement. As far as the grades, 65 grades, 77 run defense, 65 tackling, 60 pass rush, 60 coverage, 3 tackles, 3 assists, 1 miss, 2 stops, 1 target, 1 reception. That was 48 yards and a touchdown, though, so that's pretty significant. So the preseason wasn't the greatest. Again, my recollection is that the offseason, training camp in particular, was very good for him. Preseason was, again, 2 games, 1 decent, 1 not great. Regular season, played in 3 different games, weeks 12, 15, 16. Didn't play more than 8 snaps in any game. Played 7 against San Francisco, went really well, 71 grade. 3 run defense, 4 coverage. He had 67 run defense, 62 coverage. The tackling was a big problem, 29 grade. He had 0 tackles, 1 miss, so he missed 100% of his tackle attempts. And then 1 target, 1 reception for 5 yards. The Week 15 game, he only played 3 snaps, had a 65 grade. Week 16 game against New Orleans, 8 snaps, 50 grade, 60 run defense, 73 tackling, 51 coverage. He had 1 tackle, 2 targets, 1 reception for 10 yards. So haven't seen a ton of Tyron Hopper. Obviously, still very young, still learning, has quite a bit to learn. But again, as a 3rd-round pick, known to be super athletic, obviously was drafted because of the vision of this defense, right? He fits something that Hafley is looking for in a linebacker. So he's got a lot of things working to his advantage, right? Being a 3rd-round pick, being younger, being more athletic, and then being personally selected to fit a certain role in this defense. There's every reason to expect him to step up, and if he doesn't, that's obviously disappointing. And again, I know that they like McDuffie, and that may make it tough for Tyron Hopper to be able to take his seat, but he needs to do it. I mean, that's his challenge for the season. But I'm going to leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.